Yeah, and I was part of the group in Colorado Springs when we did it in Colorado Springs at the Hotel Agante now, or something else now, but that's where it was at, was there.
Hotel Agante.
But it wasn't that at the time. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was, El Escante is what we called it. Well, Nani knows. She's
It's funny because, we have all our recovery events and our treatment center conventions there. It was like so toxic. So just a quick story.
Oh, nice.
There's a place called the Orleans in Vegas. So they have the conference in Orleans. It's in the worst casino in Las Vegas. I hate to tell you that. I'm sorry if I know you owner. I apologize, but there's a thing called the Blade in front. That's where all the working girls are at. It was so toxic. You had to go downstairs to smoke. And after every break, me and Nani were laughing our butts off because every addict went to the slot machine.
Yes.
It's like, and you know how NA people are like Muppets.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody's cheering everybody on, and the machines are going, and they're screaming like they're watching a football game, and smoking like 5 packs of cigarettes before they got to go back to the next event.
Yeah.
And you just go down the stairs and you just see everybody like that.
Yes.
But it was like, man,
That's so awesome.
how do we pick these hotels?
Well, it's because of the ones that we can afford, right?
Exactly.
Newly in recovery, we don't really have a lot of money, especially if you're working a program. You got this stupid 9-step thing where you got to call the people that you sold the salt and pepper shakers off the table at the restaurant and be like, listen, I did this, so what do I owe you? You know what I mean? Type thing.
And I do like gambling at the Orleans. You just got to be tight-wrapped to be in the Orleans.
Right. So things are going really well. I was hitting goals. I bought a house, like, legitimately, and then, like, the last couple years of my sobriety, I had an opportunity to not the last couple years, probably the last year of my sobriety, I had an opportunity to distribute weed on the weekends. Oh, it's weed. I don't smoke weed. We're good. Like, I want to make this extra money. I got goals, right? I'm raising a kid by myself.
But you've been sober like 9 years.
Right, and I got, right? It's like I got. I didn't think about consequences. I didn't think about, I got a 10-year-old, right?
Or being sober for 9 years.
And his mom living in North Mexico, none of that. I stopped sponsoring guys. I stopped going to meetings. Really, I'd go to, like, for anniversaries for a couple friends. I'd go to mine, things like that. Go to the Alcathon for New Year's Eve. Go get seen, right? Like, look at me, I've got all this time, type shit, right? And that's what I would. That's how I was. Like, it became all about me. And so I started, doing these things, and I started making these Turner burns, is what we call them. I run to Omaha, run back. So Omaha, run back. I had a partner that was a retired Air Force Academy graduate with a Purple Heart, and disabled, right? So we had one vehicle that had disabled veteran plates, another vehicle that was Purple Heart plates. So we never got pulled over. We had 40, 50 pounds of weed in the trunk. Never got pulled over, not once. Never got messed with the collar.
The air sticker works.
Huh? Disabled veteran and Purple Heart, right?
Yeah.
So we got this going on, and it was the money and the money and the money, and then that led into me selling weed at work, because I had a job where I could do that. Because I worked in a call center and everybody sells weed, whatever, right? And so, then the job interfered with making runs to Nebraska. And so, I was making 10 racks on the weekends going to Nebraska. And so I was like, why wouldn't I just, make another run? My son's going to his mom's on the weekends, I'm doing it without him around and things like that. Well, all of that ego and all of that getting away from the things that afforded me the things, right? Letting the gifts that gave me the gifts go away, right? I started thinking, they're like, and I remember the person in Omaha, they're like, well, hey, can you get cocaine? So I went back and talked to my partners, and we made a couple phone calls. And before I knew it, I'm in Dallas. And I'm down there dealing with, Cubans. And I don't speak the language, but my buddy did, I was with. And you know, here we are, new to the scene, right, in Dallas. So then they send us here, they send us there. What was supposed to be a 24-hour trip turned into a 4-day trip. And then we brought back a brick, and then it was over. And it was on. You know, while we were down there, you know, it was, fortunately for me, I didn't have to use in front of them. But it was very shortly after that I went out drinking to celebrate my birthday, and I got a DUI. So I relapsed on September 13th, 2015. I turned 37 on September 14th, 2015. And I got a DUI at 2 in the morning on September 14th, 2015. And rather than be like, holy crap, dude, I need to get my poop in a group, right? I didn't. I was like, okay, I need to start making arrangements for my son. And there's another one of those higher power things. I knew that things were not okay. So I started like thinking in my mind, I didn't know how to do it, I didn't know how to do this. Well, my son took it upon himself the weekend before Halloween, so approximately 6 weeks later, at school, went to a teacher, and essentially, because he didn't feel safe at home. And so he said that he wanted to hurt himself. And so he went, so of course they're mandatory things that they have to do. So he went into a 72-hour hold there. And of course his mom lived in New Mexico, so of course I had to call his mom. I had to get the whole family involved, because you have to, right? It's your kid, you have to at this point. He was 12 years old, 12 years old, and he didn't come home from the facility to my home. He went to his mom's home in New Mexico. That 100%, absolutely 1,000% was the right decision, but it destroyed me. So that was the end of October. By Thanksgiving, I had picked up a lot, of cocaine. I had a bottle of Bullet bourbon. I took my dog George, who was my pit bull, a gun to the top of Mount Baldy in Colorado Springs with no intentions of coming down the mountain. Apparently I had enough blow to keep me up for 3 days, because I was up there for 3 days. I couldn't shoot my dog. I was going to take my dog out, and I was going to go out. I had written a note and everything like that, and I drank all the booze, you know, and did all the drugs, and I couldn't do it. And of course, I'm sitting there, you know, and I'm a mess. You know, my dog's licking my face, licking the tears off of my face, and for 3 days, my phone I had gotten no phone calls, no text messages. And then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, I get a phone call from a friend. He's like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you in a few days. You know, what's going on? You know?" And he's like, "I need something. I need to see you. I need something." Right? He's one of those type of friends. And I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, I got you. You know, I'm away. I'll come down." And I came down that mountain from that, and that phone call saved my life. Really, probably, you know. And my dog. Oh yeah, George he was great. He died at 14 while I was incarcerated, you know, on purpose, because there's no way he would have died if I was alive. He wouldn't have done that to me. He was a great dog. I miss him a lot. But I came down the mountain, and you know, and I made a decision on the way down that mountain that I was like, well, I don't have the guts, I don't have the balls to shoot myself. I can't do it. You know, and I can't leave my dog around. Nobody can. This is my dog, like absolutely my. You know, you get those dogs that are just your dogs, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I made a decision on the way down. I'll just kill myself with the drugs. I'll just stop messing with the cocaine. 'Cause I'm wasting my money. And I'll just go buy a pound of meth. I didn't know how much it was. I didn't know how I was gonna find it. but I because the people I was messing with didn't mess with it. But I made the decision to do that, and I came down that mountain, and I got on Colorado Backpages, and I was like, hookers know. Hookers definitely know where to get meth, right? And so I went through, and I found the most sucked in, Skeletor looking hooker, and I'm like, this broad is gonna know where to find some meth. And so I show up there, and at the motel on the west side of Colorado Springs at the Amarillo.
Been to the Amarillo?
Yeah,
right off the highway there.
It's gnarly, bro. And I go in there, and I was definitely the cleanest thing in there. And I say, listen, I'm not here to sleep with you. Like, no disrespect. I need to find some shit. I'm like, here, I got some blow. You know what I mean? To show you, I'll do it in front of you. You can do something. You can have it. Just call your dude. I know you get high. I want to get high. And so she did. She called this dude, and I spent about 4 times as much for an 8-ball that I should have, because it had been since crank days that I bought, meth. And so I was used to an 8-ball costing $125, right? $50, turns out. So is what it should have cost. But anyways, I paid $125 for an 8-ball. I was like, oh, here we go. This is it. So I'm like, cool. So I did that. And a few days later, I hit this dude up and just kept increasing the amount that I was buying, and went to Craigslist personals and just put P2P, which is play to party or party to play or whatever. I Googled to see how I was going to do it, and then that's how I built my clientele to get back into it, and that's what I did. And
pretty slutty, aren't you?
It's Will Chamberlain type numbers, bro. It's gross. It's gross. Just grateful 45 it still works. And at DRDC, it's funny, when I went to prison at DRDC, I thought for sure I had Hep C, right? Because I'm an IV drug user. I was an IV drug user, and they called me back in after they pull your blood, and I'm like, shit, here we go. It's gonna be Hep C, right? We go in there, and they're like, oh, you got chlamydia, and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, it's sexually transmitted disease, blah, blah, blah. It's not syphilis. It could lead to syphilis. They give me the whole rundown. I'm like, well, what do we got to do? Is it forever? They're like, no, you take these 4 pills. And I'm like, how many times? They're like, just this time. And I'm like, high five. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, I haven't used a rubber since the 90s. And I sleep with prostitutes and shoot dope. Like, are you kidding me? And then I just have chlamydia. I was like, this is, I must have that tiger blood, right? Like, my blood. And so, obviously when COVID comes on, I wasn't worried about that. My blood kills Hep C and AIDS, right? So, but yeah, so I that's what I went through. Like, that's how I built it. And then things started just to evolve. I was still doing the weed thing. My clientele, the weed went from, I was picking up pounds of marijuana in Coos Bay, North Bend, Oregon, on the West Coast, because they had that big influx. If you remember, when you get pounds for $400 to $500, I had a press out there, so I went out there and I was pressing it and sending that in 1 ounce cards to Nebraska for $800 an ounce. I was buying a pound for $400 to $500, and I was getting 4 ounces of basically wax. Essentially, it's keep and sending it out there, get $800 an ounce free. So I was flipping my money, and I didn't have to leave. But I was also picking those up because then I could run all the way to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and drop pounds for $2,600 apiece. So it was like, here I was, and I was off to the races. No job, no responsibilities, put all my stuff in storage. And I just, hitting every single casino. We were talking about this earlier. And I can tell you where all the casinos are. The ones in Kansas, the ones in, there's this cool one in Metropolis. It's literally called Metropolis. It's on the Ohio River in Kentucky, right? And they're on riverboats. You literally walk across, it's like this far from land to a boat. But they're attached by rubber, but they're considered riverboat casinos. And I just would hit each one of them on the way back and forth. And I don't even know, I never won anything, ever. Like we were talking about this earlier. Like I just blew money, but it was like I was coming back from South Carolina You know, like you can only Walmart to Walmart so much money back before you raise red flags, and this was when you could still do that. You can't do that the way that we were doing it back then, or Western Union or any of that stuff, but like, you know, I could travel back across the country with $75,000. I could do it. Like there was no way. I mean, what have I got to lose? And again, I had no license because I got this DUI, you know, and so, you know, and it was me and a girl driving back and forth, and, you know,
I
and
think that was a blessing, because like, it's only so much you get a W-2 now for
Yeah.
gambling, so.
right,
You
right.
didn't really want to
Absolutely.
wash in a casino.
No, absolutely not. And so what I did do though was when I got back and I started using meth heavily, I lost the weed stuff. The guys doing the weed were like, dude, you're too much, right? They took a step back. So then at my station, my home base was back in the Springs, and so I opened up a tattoo shop. So I could launder money through a tattoo shop. So the tattoo artist would just write down whatever they'd collect for the day, and I'd take 50% of it, deposit it into the account, because I paid them 50%. And then just did that. And so I had an income, technically, you know. But that was all over 7 years ago, so it was all over the statute of limitations, right? Like, so, but I actually, but the crazy part about it is I paid taxes on
To be
it.
clear.
But I paid taxes on it, so the government profited off of what I was doing, you know. But so that was going on, right? Well, doing just the meth, and then that led to selling heroin. Because
It's
that's what
genius, because like washing it, you're gonna pay a tax, but it's not gonna be a state.
Right.
Colorado
Well,
tax is gonna
but
be way more than that.
Here's the fun
Yeah.
part, right? It was still only half,
Yeah.
right? So, but so then, you know, my business enterprise, if you will, grew from meth to heroin and to all of the things, right? The 3-ring circus,
Mhm.
you know, is really what it is. And I knew, like, again, another God thing that happened to me is I knew that messing with guns and heroin that's what was gonna get me caught up,
Yeah.
you know, and it sure was.
It's amazing how a gun can change the
But you had to have one,
yeah.
not because it was cool, because it was the culture, it was the world that I lived in.
Yeah.
You know, once people know that you carry a pistol, this is something that I learned. Once people know that you carry a pistol, if they have a problem with you, they're always coming strapped, no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, to
Because
this day-
yeah, absolutely.
To this day, people still think that I'm packed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was packing all through basically high school through my 30s, so people that don't know and don't listen to the radio and don't know what I'm doing and still out in that life,
Yeah.
they still think I'm strapped.
And then they probably always will.
Yeah.
Let them. You know, I mean, that's on them. You know, all we could do is what we could do today, right?
Yeah.
But so all of those things, and you know, man, I was so done. I was so done, and I was so miserable in what I was doing. The drugs weren't doing what they were. I didn't really use. I used opiates. I used heroin from time to time, but I didn't like it, so I didn't really mess with it. Another one of those higher power things, because people have a hard time getting off of that. I'm grateful that it wasn't something that grabbed a hold of me. But it, like the women I was involved with, it had them by the deepest being of their soul, 100%. And
It feels bad, huh? Just when you know that
dude, so
you
bad.
know that you just helped destroy this person.
Yeah, no, 100%. That is not who I am today. What I did then does not define me today. But I mean, I definitely have some ways to go in my mind, to correct that for my soul, for me. But so all these things happen, and so lo and behold, I get told on. Didn't know that I was told on, but it doesn't matter. Put myself in a position to be told on, and cops showed up. And they go, well, first let me tell you about the Bob thing real quick. So my name is Will. People used to call me Big Will because I'm a big dude. So I go and I get this gun from somebody, trade him real quick. It's a real quick transaction. So then I'm driving, right? sitting at a stoplight in North Nevada. It's 3:45 in the afternoon on a Friday, rush hour traffic in August, and it's a pistol pouch. So I go to unzip it, right, in this vehicle. It's in my lap, and I go unzip it, and I notice that the hammer's all the way cocked, and that it's a revolver. And the next thing I know, it goes off, boom, like scared. I didn't know what happened, right? Like I was in shock. I didn't realize that I just shot myself in the leg. The whole car is filled up with smoke and paper because it's a black powder gun. Again, a God thing, because it was point blank range in my leg, cauterized the wound as the pellets went through. So it wasn't a bullet, it was pellets, right? It was a replica, like 1867 Magnum 44 Magnum replica. So it was so hot, and it was point blank range, but I shot myself in the leg. So I'm sitting there, and of course I look around, my windows are up, AC's blasting, because it's a million degrees outside, plus at the time I was so high I was sweating in the snow. But, so it goes off, and I'm like, holy crap, and I'm on my way to the homie's house, and I call him, and I'm like, hey man, just so you know, this punk ass white boy just shot me in the leg, right? I'm making jokes, because that's what I do, right? That's uncomfortable. And he goes, I'll call the homies. We'll go. Who was it? And I was like, nah, bro, it was me. I shot myself in the leg. I'm on my way to your house. And he goes, okay, are you by yourself? I was like, yeah. So dude comes out, and this was a dude that did like 15 years of coke in charge. He's an old school Norteño dude or not Norteño, but like a Nazi lowrider Mexican dude from the north side of Denver, and like, just my buddy, right? And he comes out, and I didn't know how tatted he was, right? Dude comes out in a wife beater, and he's fully tatted, has a yellow apron, like a kitchen apron, and yellow gloves on, because he doesn't know what he's walking into, right? And he comes out, and and it blew through my leg, and he helps me inside, and his son's there, like scared to death. His son was like 18 years old. His big pozole pot full of boiling water, and he's stripping sheets, right? Because he's thinking, the worst, and unfortunately it cauterized the wound, and anyways, it stopped bleeding in the 15 minutes it took me to get there. Dressed me up, whatever, gave him what he wanted, told him no charge, you know what I mean, I'm on my way. And so from then he's like, dude, you're like Cheddar Bob. And I'm like,
That's amazing.
I was like, dude, first of all, I know a dude named Cheddar from West Side Denver. You might, anyways,
Yeah.
some people might know who he is. And I'm like, no, I'm not that dude, just drop that, we'll just go with Bob. Because whatever, big white dude named Bob, right? That's really conspicuous. So that's where Bob came from. The reason I keep it is to remind myself of where I came from. I'm not that dude anymore, but I am Bob, right? I am a new Bob. I'm a different person today. So that's why I keep it. I got, a hole in my leg. Not anymore. It healed up perfectly. Never went to the hospital or anything like that. But so anyways, so I got told, so that's where Bob comes from, but I got told on, I got arrested, and I was so thankful for that. I knew I was going to prison. I was like, cool, just don't look at the camper. I thought to myself, well, they looked at the camper, so ended up getting more time because of what was in the camper. They ended up, Colorado Springs Police Department, they have this thing they do down there called prosecutorial leverage, where the best way I know how to describe it would be like, oh, that looks like a new TV. Do you have a receipt for that? Oh, you don't? I bet you stole it. And then you got to prove you didn't, right? They do stuff like that. They throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. But essentially, of the 26 charges they charged me with, I copped to 3. They dropped the possession of methamphetamines with intent to distribute, which I had like 72 grams. They took all the money I had, was like $1,500, the 2 pistols that I had, the half a gram of heroin, which is what I copped to, distribution on heroin because it was sitting next to a bunch of baggies in a scale, but they got a heroin conviction rather than a meth conviction, and another gun. So they convicted me. I got copped to 5 years, Department of Corrections, and it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. It gave me a reason to leave the business. It gave me a reason to leave the game, and it gave me something happened in my mind and in my soul. Like I was done, and I went to prison and just saw the old timers there, a bunch of people there that were that will never leave prison and things like that, and just had a spiritual thing, happen to me, And I spent a total of, because of the way that it works, I spent a total of 11 months behind the walls on a 5-year sentence. And then I went to community corrections, and again in community corrections it was flooded with drugs, and I just didn't want to do it.
You got cheated though. You had a great story on how you got your nickname, but you got Bob.
Yeah.
Like some people, like nowadays, they pick this really creative name that they didn't earn,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. Then you find out that they gave it to themselves. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But you had an amazing experience, and you got Bob.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
It's great though, but I love it. But
Yeah.
you still just got Bob.
Well, it says, my friend Ginger always says, remember that commercial where it's like, it's Bob had a baby, it's a boy?
Yeah.
Because he couldn't do the old MCI commercials. So I called Ginger, who's my family,
Yeah.
she always answers the phone. Not always, but answers the phone that way sometimes.
And if you're hearing us, we love you, Ginger.
Absolutely.
Get well.
Please do, yes.
Yes.
We're gonna miss you while you're away. Your
Yeah.
smiles and everything, but our prayers are with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Much love, Ginger.
And so, this thing happened, and so I went to community corrections, and then, again, another higher power, my higher power intervened when I was there. I had an opportunity to go on ISPI, and a buddy that I worked with, who actually is in prison right now, lived in a pine house, lived in an Oxford sober living in Colorado
You're
Springs.
about to say pineapple.
I was going to say pine house again, yeah, but no.
I was just said a pineapple. I was like,
No.
are we in SpongeBob?
But he's like, I was like, dude, I'm not going back, because the pine house, it was like, they tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm done with people telling me what to do, right?
Yeah.
I was resistant to that, because no, it's cool. It's like, come check it out. And, Crash is one of my brothers, one of my chosen brothers that's out there. He started at the Oxford Sober Living, and I got in there, and I knew that I needed to be of service, right, for my previous recovery. And so I started going to the chapter meetings, and I raised my hand to get involved with reentry, because I was like, I want to help people get out of prison, And coming in when I was in prison, I didn't know anything about sober living, at the time, other than my previous experience. I knew nothing about Tribe, nothing about like Aurora Sober Living. Shout out to them. Nothing about Oxford House Sober Living, Hazelbrook, any of those, right? I didn't know, those are the ones I could think of off the top of my head. There's so many of them out there that do such great work, and but I didn't know any of those things. So I'm like, I need to bring a message into the prison, into the bros, into the people in there that want to change, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I got involved with the reentry program with Oxford Sober Living, and they offered me a job at Oxford House, a paid job. Not much, but it paid enough, and it wasn't about that at the time, and I got to go back to the yards, and I got to go see people that I used to get high with, that I used to do dirt with. They saw me, right? So instantly they knew, like, this dude's legit, right? Because we've done stuff with him. It's not, they know my name's good in and out of prison, right? Like, because that's an important thing. There's something to it, right?
Yeah.
You guys understand that, right? And so I was able to help people, and they were able to see me, and they were able to see me do well. Throughout this recovery process, at that time, I realized that my first drug of choice happened to be food. Weird, right? 5 years old, I'm stealing bags of chips and hiding the wrappers. So I took action, just like with my drug and alcohol and my substance use. I took action against my food addiction, and since July of 2022, so just over a year ago, I lost 140 pounds. So, but I'm not done yet. I'm actually recommitting on Friday. I'm starting CrossFit at the Phoenix. Again, because I've plateaued. I've kind of lost as much as I think I can on my own, so I'm going to go do some group fitness. But
Awesome, man.
But that recovery led me to working at Tribe, which I help people come out of jail, which is amazing. I also work at Denver Health, and I'm a peer-to-peer support for people that do what we do. I'm there to support them, which is an amazing work. So I work both jobs, ride a Harley, got a dog. The biggest thing that I had to learn, and I'm still learning this, we talked about expectations before this, right, of others and ourselves. The biggest thing that I had to learn, and I'm still learning, is that I have to learn how to love myself and be accepting of myself and realistic expectations of myself the way that I love you, the way that I can forgive you. And that's really hard, right? That's those expectations where we set people up to, so that, you know, people now don't live up to our expectations, or we don't live up to our own. It's like I have to learn how to love myself the way that I love you, which is unconditional.
Yeah, and you know, it's in recovery, I wish a lot more people would understand that concept, because you know, the expectation thing and just relationships in a whole can ruin everything. You just gotta accept that person for being that person, and this is the way it is, you know. And we can get really, really judgmental in recovery, you know, and it's we'll put lipstick on a pig real quick and not even do the work behind it, and it's terrifying to get in recovery, but then also at the same time it's freeing, right? Getting to where you need to be. Congratulations on all that. I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, you know, like we were talking about before, some of my fondest memories never happened.
Yeah.
And then you hear stories like yours and you get the realization of the memories that you had, and you feel thankful after you hear a story like yours that there is hope, there's things, you know. So how's your son doing nowadays?
That's a work in progress. He's in the Air Force. He's 19 years old. He has a son. He's married. I have no contact. I know that if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'll be ready when he's ready.
Awesome.
If I'm using, I'll lose him forever, potentially. So I'm not sober for him. I am sober so that I can be ready to meet him again and to meet my grandson.
That's awesome.
When they're ready.
My first sponsor told me, don't ever be sober for a person, and don't be as sober for in spite of a person.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good. It's good advice.
Yeah, it is. Well, I really hope that happens for you. It'll be my prayers for you.
Thank you.
Mahai, our guest today has been Bob Schulz, William, but AKA Bob, and I really thank you, and I commend you, and thanks for coming in and speaking. Truly
Thank you. It was an honor.
Appreciate you so much. Mahai, this is Sharing Our Stories. It is brought to you by Tribe Recovery Homes. If you want to meet Tomas and his team, you can go to triberecoveryhomes.com. You can also call them at 720-60-TRIBE. That's 720-608-7423. This program is also brought to you in part with thanks to Caring for Denver. Special thanks to Caring for Denver. You know, there are so many resources available to help with addiction and substance misuse recovery, and Caring for Denver is the organization that helps our recovery community stay connected to better assist our Denver community. And if you want to find some resources through Caring for Denver, you can text SOS to 303-597-1015. That's SOS to 303-597-1015, and we'll get you in touch with some great resources right now. I want to thank Bob Schulz once again for being our guest. Thank you to Tribe Recovery Homes, Nani, and Tomas. I appreciate you guys, and we will see you again next week right here, Mahai, for Sharing Our Stories.
It's great. You know what, we could have done the What About Bob joke.
Yeah.
My name's
That was
like,
the one that was
hey, those
missing.
roses are red, violets are blue. I'm a schizophrenic, and so
Great story,
Bob, that was
Bob.
great.
Thanks. Sorry, I should have wrapped it up a little bit better. Sorry about the last couple of minutes.
No.
So I see the diamond.
Story.
Yeah, it's probably getting covered up. So
Yeah, which group?
yeah, it was sanctioned by Izzy for Hell's Angels.
Mhm.
And he's the one that taught me, he's a brother, and he taught me 1%ers are